We're back. This is part 2 of Tyson Witham. We had a little bit of a chat to him and we're just getting into the nitty-gritty of how he actually got into radio. It was a little bit disjointed in part 1 about maybe he's not putting his hand up in the air and shaking it around like he just don't care. So... So part 2, we're going to hear a little bit more about what goes into just the creative thought process and some of the cool content ideas he comes up with. I've said this to you in person and I'll say it. I think you're one of the most underrated brains that I know in radio because you look like you are doing a lot of stupid stuff, but there is so much thought process that goes into making it look that simple.
Yeah, right.
And that's exactly how Mel described you to me.
Okay.
Because I don't think when you first came up that she realised that we had any shared history.
Yeah.
So that's the honest truth, exactly how she said it to me originally.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's weird because I want to take that as a compliment, and then I overthink it, and then I go, underrated. Does everyone just not even give a shit about it?
No. Because I think you make it appear very effortless, but I've seen it in action, and I've seen the brain jump around.
Yeah. Okay.
From an external point of view, and I probably can appreciate it. And I'm not saying I'm anywhere near your level, but the thinking constantly and questioning things.
Yeah.
And I think you've even just said, like, you just fly under the radar. You don't really put yourself front and centre on purpose.
Yeah, that's definitely a way I go. I don't aim to be front and centre because then everyone spotlight's on you. Everyone's expecting things from you. If I'm standing next to the spotlight, I can do whatever the hell I want. And if I get laughs, it's like, no one expected this. So it's fun.
Can I ask a question then? There was a period of time, I'm not sure, it might have been 12 to 18 months ago, where there was some really funny meme stuff coming out from who you work for. And I just thought, wow, there's a really strong through line of comedy here that's a little different to the group as a whole and also to other stuff that I'd seen locally.
Yeah.
You know, I know a few people, enough to know that it was coming from you, some of those ideas. But that's a way of the best thing that I thought that I saw from that company for the week locally.
Yeah, right.
Had none of you directly in it. You were one step removed because all it was a funny couple of words or a joke or a really clever play on words. Or
that probably was me because I did take over the social media around then. Before then, but I only sort of just dropped off the social media last year for the company and said, like, let that be someone else's duty because I do a lot of other operations role that no one will know anything about or care about. It's very boring stuff.
It's a very important part of it.
It's got to run.
We are a hub at Albury, so we go out to like from Orange down to Warragul and everywhere in between regionally. So sort of being in charge of that operationally is the less interesting sound of the job, but it's the stuff that probably kept me a job last year, really.
Do you want to just, for people that don't know and aren't in radio, just quickly just explain what goes into that role?
It's a lot of, because, if you listen to the radio, you've got the music, right? We've got someone who picks the songs. So they're based on surveys of asking people what music you want to hear. So someone picks the songs, that music has to go out across Australia to all of our stations, same songs to play. And then I get it sent to me, so I push the button that goes, load these songs in, and then I look at all the different sweeps between it, and sweeps are those imaging that goes, like, the Borders hit 104.9, and where...
So radio.
Or it'll be like where the Murray River is or something. They'll say something local, and or it'll be like someone going, damn, it's R&B Fridays or whatever. Like finding the right one to go between the right songs. I got to do that right, and then I have to do it for 10 stations, which go out to like Griffith and Orange and Warrior
because
and Wagga.
Of the hub aspect of the operation.
Yeah, so that's a main part of it, and then sending that out to everyone to say, hey, here's your log for the day, announcers. You'll have to do this, you'll have to do this, you have to do, like if we have lately we've had the summer roulette where we spin a wheel and then whatever wheel lands on, we play that song where it's just a gimmick, but it's something a reason to play a song we might not normally play or something like that. So there's all that sort of stuff that you're in charge of in a way.
So basically you're making people on air's life easier.
Yeah, I guess.
by sorting it all out. It's all there in front of.
Yeah, so
front
they
of
just
them.
look at a screen or a piece of paper and go, okay, I have to talk here, here, here. Where I'm really just almost a middleman. There's someone else who does all that, and then I go, oh, I'll fill it out to make it sound and look better.
Pretty much like a librarian sorting through the Dewey Decimal
And going,
System and just going,
what is
why
the Bible doing in fiction?
Yes, that's it.
It should be there. No, that's not. No.
I was hoping you were just going to leave that. I think that might be the best joke I've ever heard on this program.
Told you, he's so smart.
Yeah, don't give me that. I can't take it. I can't take a compliment as well. That's another
Well,
thing.
you're in a room full of people who can't take compliments.
Good.
I think.
You know what? That's a good thing I like about you, Josh. You're a great person.
Yeah, so you've got, thank you. So you've got a job where it's particularly in regional places. It's a really important thing that people have that local radio they can turn on. Just like people, I think, are starting to miss the local television aspect of a lot of stations. Don't have any local stuff. So getting the music right. I mean, no one's going to bother listening to the people talking on there if the music's off base or it doesn't actually appeal to them or it's all in the wrong order.
Yeah, yeah. And I think probably the most complaint you get is either less talk, more music, or stop playing the same songs.
Yeah.
At least most complaints you get to a radio station.
Yeah,
and
but
it's like,
is that from people that like the majority of people, I'm assuming, are only listening for a small part of the day, aren't they?
100%, and that is what it is.
Because I know I used to listen to the river in the morning when I drive over when I was living in Wodonga, and then in the afternoon I would listen to Kate, Tim and Marty on Nova, which I think was on The Edge or something.
FM, yeah. Which
And
Marty's now on Triple M.
That was my favourite. That was my favourite radio show that I've ever heard.
I really enjoyed Kate, Tim and Marty. Yeah,
and I love Marty, but I was at most listening to what. Sometimes I get caught in traffic on the way back over the causeway. I might have listened for 20 minutes for the total of a whole day.
Yeah, exactly.
And sometimes I did hear the same songs.
Yeah, because you wouldn't hear it into the space of 20 minutes, but you would hear like
over the course of a week, I might hear one or two songs that are the same.
Yeah. And there's probably to do with like peak times of going, hey, people like this song, let's put it in this peak time of people driving. And that's sort of how it works.
I guess where I was angling with that, with all those pressures of keeping the core product strong and appropriate to the area and whatever, how do you also do the creative side of what you do? Because are you hosting anything as well at the moment?
So I do, my show is 9 to 12, Monday to Friday on Hit. And I pretty much have free range to do what I want, but they want me to do the most local possible show.
Yeah.
The music-wise, I don't have anything to do with, really. It's just trying to make what I'm talking about integrate with the music and integrate with things that are happening locally and to make it entertaining and interesting and do it in 20 seconds for a break.
Getting back to where we kind of met at Soden's when I was the entertainment manager, I used to sometimes get asked, Butterfly Effect, Dead Letter Circus, Cog, those type of bands. My old band, The Third Estate at the time, was the only band really that sounded like them in this area that wasn't too heavy metal, but wasn't so soft that it didn't work. I sometimes had to book the gig, give the guys dinner, get their rider ready, and then get up on stage and play. Right. And then get up and then reman the door again. Yeah. So how do you separate performer from
it's hard.
From operations guy?
Yeah, and that's the hard thing that I've been juggling, I think, ever since I took over operations, where it's been like I've dropped off on the social media fun videos, the thing that I really enjoy doing, to do this role, and you end up feel like you're going from all your jobs to the next job to the next job to the next job, and your day's over and you got to start again the next day, and you go, when do I find time to do the fun thing that I want to do out there? So I'm still trying to find that balance, really. It's very hard, where you sort of want to do everything to make everyone happy and keep everything running, but I find it hard to delegate as well and go. It's
funny, you just made me think. You asked earlier, Tyson, what's all this about, like this studio?
Yeah, I was curious.
And
what's punching sideways?
Part of it's about that I've created a sideline thing for myself that I can't do in my normal work. Right. Like I've created, because of my job doesn't pay me to sit there and talk to interesting people and hang out with Mel. Yeah. And have a space where I'm happy and I don't have to stress about the sound and stuff. Yeah. My job doesn't afford that. That's not what the job is. And I've never had a job where I talk into a mic. So I just built it on the side.
Right. And that's good.
And that's probably honestly the main reason, because I don't get to do it day to day.
And I think me going in and doing, because this is what I thought when I was driving forklifts, that I go, well, I'm getting paid a lot to do like a job that might be mind-numbing to me in a way, and then I have the time outside of work where I'm getting paid enough that I can do the things I want to do and maybe work on my side projects, but I never did that. And I was like, you have the time and you didn't really do it. Like I'd write a script for like a TV show, like maybe that was something cool I could do. But I did a little bit of that and pretty much was like, yeah, whatever. Where instead I was like, now I've got this job where it seems like now I have the big platform. I should be able to branch off from there. And then you'll go, and you'd start doing all these other jobs and forget about it and sort of just every now and then pop in, here's a social media video of me doing something fun that I think's good and worth watching. And then you go, can we bother? I got like 10 likes on that. And you sort of take a break for a while. So, yeah, I don't know.
When you come up with these social video ideas, do you know immediately in your head that it's good? Can you play it out in your head and go,
I can get excited about stuff and go, it's not until the edit.
I have to do this.
It's not until the edit that I know, because I've done videos where I've gone, I don't know if that's going to be anything I wanted or what I thought it was going to be. And sometimes I'll go out there and go, let's do a video and not have a full plan. They're the worst things to do. You always should have a plan. But sometimes they can work out well, and it's usually in the edit. I'm very animated with my hands bumping the mic. But it's in the edit where I go, I'm happy here. This is good. And I thought ideas were going to be good, but it wasn't. And I'd film stuff and go, that's exciting, some of those bits. But it's not to the edit that I go, yes, I'm very happy, because I was out there for a long time. I've had videos where I did the release of Red Dead Redemption came out, and I was going to the midnight launch at JB Hi-Fi. They said we weren't allowed to film in there, so there was like getting around that. And then my aim was to go into JB and line up and be an idiot and dress as a cowboy, which I've dressed as a cowboy so many times for this work. I don't know why. It just always ends up that way.
You just like cowboys.
And I dressed full on cowboy, mostly kids cowboy outfits, so I looked even more ridiculous. And it was me just asking people about Red Dead. Oh, excited. You hear you can you grow your facial hair in real time. I'll say that to people, and then they'll be like, yeah, I guess. And that was the comedy, but it was doing it in a whole hour or longer than that of filming. It felt like, we're not getting anything here. And I don't know what's going on here. And then I wanted to finish it by going across the street to Paddy's and then going in there because it's karaoke night, dressed as a cowboy singing Bon Jovi's Wanted Dead or Alive. Like, I'm a cowboy on a steel, like doing that. And that's how I finished it and holding the game in the air. Like, I was very excited, like that was going to be the thing. And then we go into Paddy's and I asked them, I tried to set everything up. I went into JB that day to say, it would be cool if I film in here. They were like, no, we can't, have to ask head office. I went, that's fine, we can get around that and just film out the front with the big swag and stuff. Yeah. Paddy's, I went in that day and I said, would it be cool if I film in here tonight because it's karaoke night if I just did something quick? And they were like, yeah, that'd be fine. And then I got in the Paddy's that night and they were like, you can't bring a camera in here. What are you doing? I go, I asked someone today. Who'd you ask? Guy behind the bar. And it was like, so I couldn't film in there, had to leave. Like, I also asked the karaoke guy, hey, I'm going to film something. Can I jump up? Because we were like, maybe if you just quickly film it before someone, because they were looking at us a bit dodgy with a big giant camera. And he was sort of like, no, you're not jumping in front of all these people that have been waiting in line and stuff. I'm like, come on, just let me sing. Dress as a cowboy, it'll be fun. Like, people will get into it. Everyone's going to sing, won't it?
Well, as long as the intros you the right way. It could have just seemed like it was always going to happen.
So I had this big plan, and then that didn't happen either. So I ended up going away going, this is crap. I haven't got anything. Then the edit came together and I was so happy with it. Like, I enjoyed it so much. And I put the edit together and it was just like, I ended the video of me putting the game in because everyone was complaining about how big the download would take. It was basically just a long download where you couldn't even play that night anyway. So you'd wait for the midnight screening and then you get home and I put the DVD in or the game in and I'd go, oh, crap. And then the video ends. So it was like this small moments of me talking to random strangers and then getting their responses of being like, I don't care, why are you a cowboy? This is dumb. But me being very excited, and it was just a snippet, and it just was amusing in that sense to me that I was like, this is great, because the power of editing, I think, is your best friend.
So when you're just saying now that you've got a camera following you around.
Yeah.
Is this Brad
That's
Chappell?
if I have the luxury of that. Brad Chappell.
Brad Chappell.
He's an amazing man. He's helped me out in so many ways because he's also the quickest editor ever, and he does our commercials out at SEA. So he would go, we'd come back to the office and I'd go, oh, you'd load that on, I'll come back and we'll look over the edit. But I also don't want to be a backseat editor because I don't like that when people do it to me because you're like, oh, put that bit in, I like that bit or whatever. So I sort of want to leave him there for a little bit, and he only needs a couple of minutes. I come back and he's got it pretty much set, and I'll go, you're the best. Like, that would take me ages to sit there and go through every tiny little frame where I'd go, cut it at this frame, or like, I don't want to see this next bit where I laugh. I want to cut it without me laughing because it's funnier that way, or that sort of stuff.
How long do you think it's taken you to develop that relationship? Because I've seen you two work together and you two obviously get each other.
Yeah, he gets it.
He gets what's going on in your head, which that's pretty difficult. Like, let's just say that's no mean feat. So let's all just round of applause to Brad Chappell for getting Tyson's head.
He's an amazing man. A lot of it was me by myself trying to get someone in the office to film for me for a long time.
Yeah.
And there would be issues where I'd be like, oh, why did you stop recording? Like they would stop recording and go, I thought you were done. And I'm like, no, this is where some of the comedy, where it lingers or something, or something lingers and I'll do an extra little bit that I find funny. But then there'll be people who just can't even frame right, and you'd have so much sky in the shot, and you'd be like, So it's good to have someone who knows what they're doing. And Brad Chappell, he's amazing. So,
and I suppose that's where I lean into. You do some very funny stuff, but it's deliberately stupid, and it would still take a lot of time potentially to put together. Yeah. But it looks like it's been half-assed.
Yeah. So there's like this came to mind that I put a bit of effort in and going down the street to demand the Easter, keep the Easter bunny out of town and bring back the bilby or something. Like I was doing some. I said I didn't want the Easter bunny to come to town for some reason. I can't remember, but I had like a big sign and walked through Dean Street, and I had this old bloke was like called me basically a moron, and I was like, this is gold. Like I was so happy that he called me that. And then you think about it in a normal setting that you'd be upset. But I knew I was being a moron, so I was like, call me a moron. That's good. That's what I want. That's just gold for Akermanis, interacting with people and holding up things. Like I did a Star Wars one where I had all these Star Wars things and pictures of people from Star Wars going, who's that? Who's this? Yeah, you excited about Star Wars? No one on the board is excited for the new Star Wars movie. And I thought it was like this big fun video where I got a lightsaber and a stormtrooper mask and had a sword fight with a tree in front of and a guy who was busking on the street. Like just a bunch of stuff like that I thought was really fun that didn't really have a plan. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff I put heaps of effort into, and then I go, and then the stuff you put the least effort into does the best. And you're like,
that's very frustrating.
It's so frustrating. I shook hands with ScoMo when he just became Prime Minister and he came to Albury, and my aim was to film him and then just put it in slow motion and write ScoMo in slow mo. And that's all I wanted, because he was only just got coined the term ScoMo because he just became PM, and his first real big thing as PM, he was coming to Albury. So I thought, this is going to be the first person to get on this joke. Yeah. ScoMo, slow-mo, it's there, it's easy, it's written. It's so. And I went and I shook his hand because he came around the corner and turned when there was all these people around him, and I didn't think he was coming my way. And I went and I pushed record. I shook his hand and I was like, hey, going, yeah, whatever my political opinions are. I just wanted the video. And then I looked down and it's recording now, and it wasn't recording, and I missed it. And I was like, oh. So I just recorded a random shot of him walking, used that instead, put it as a slow-mo, and then I was thinking, I went this effort, and I'm hanging around him, trying to find my opportunity, put it up. I think I got one like, and it would have been from someone in the building. And I was like, oh, this was good. And I put it on both stations too, like Hit and Triple M, thinking I was going to get stuff, but no. And that felt like a lot of effort to go into that because, I mean, sure, it was just walking down the street and filming, but it felt like I was really trying that day because I was busy and stuff, and I got nothing out of it. I was like,
but do you know what? I think if you hadn't have done that and someone else had to come up with,
I'd be so angry.
You'd be so angry.
If I saw ScoMo and slow-mo come up and I'd be like, oh, why is that? That was my idea. That's happened too many times.
You never know if it happens to, like, the types of people maybe that could most, get you some kind of, new job or a bit of extra coverage. Yeah. Maybe those people aren't the type of people that ever press like on something. I just had a conversation with a comedian he lives in Nashville. His name's Rick Roberts.
Yeah.
And I followed him on Twitter, and he went and listened to, I've got this podcast, but I've also got a really short form podcast that I started I really started putting them out more when COVID hit because I wasn't going to get to tell jokes in public, and I was a complete rookie, so I had to do it somewhere. And he just went and clicked on a few things on my Twitter account. So before he emailed me to say, hey, thanks for following me, he'd gone and listened to half of these little episodes I put out and then memorised one whole bit and told me how he thought the structure was really great and I should do more parts like that. And this is a guy that's been doing it as a pro for 30 years. But he wrote me this massive email to say, hey, thanks, I've seen you on Twitter a couple of times. Thanks for supporting. Because he puts jokes up and some of them are really, really funny. And
that's part of him doing a bit of hustling too.
Yeah, but if I didn't have those little bits of content that no one, quote unquote, cared about out there, I wouldn't have had that connection, and now we talk all the time.
Great. Yeah, and that's the thing. You got to keep putting stuff out there and working your best bit of work because you never know who's going to see it.
You also never know when the idea of if someone tries to, go back on the ScoMo and slow-mo for some reason in the future.
That's the thing.
To be fair, they don't know
You've
that's
done
me.
it.
You were
It's
the
there.
originator. So.
No, but it's
Yeah.
there. You can go, I did that.
Yeah, well,
I did that.
there's a lot of
You
me
guys
telling
weren't
people I
re-
invented something.
You
and,
weren't ready for it.
Yeah, exactly.
You weren't ready
The
for it.
world
I'm
wasn't
ahead
ready
of-
for this.
The world wasn't ready for ScoMo and slow-mo.
No, they weren't. I'm sure it's probably gone viral somewhere else, and he was probably doing something stupider. And then I was like, I needed him to do that dumb face or something, or, like. Just
I mean, that's amazing. Do you mind if we maybe start finishing up? But I'd love to ask you a question about, is there any other pieces of content or anything that you comes to mind that you just think is really interesting or special that maybe didn't get the love at the time that maybe we can talk about?
If you like us, like I like us, get onto punchingsideways.com, give us a bit of a likesy, have a bit of an exploration around and maybe buy us a coffee.
I've got 2 videos that I've done that I really liked that never actually went out.
Yep.
One was when they were going to rename Alexandra Park to Les O'Brien Park. Like he was a legend there. He passed away, and I wanted to go out there and do a bit to honour him and try and get people to talk more about it and maybe actually rename the park. And I think Usain Bolt was retiring around the same time, and I don't know if Kathy Freeman was in the news or not, but I went out to the track. There was some randoms there, and I just said, hey, can we film something here? And they were like, yeah, all right. And I don't know what their responsibility was, but they had a key to get in the gate. So whatever, this is me at the paddies again.
They're
the same
probably there
story.
to mow the lawn.
Basically, yeah. So it was probably something like that, actually. But I went in there and they're like, yeah, that's fine. And I went in, I thought I did the proper, So I dressed as my full green morph suit, except my head's out. So that's those full skin tight green lycra bodysuits. So I look like Kathy Freeman. And then I thought I'll sprint 100 metres and try and beat a certain time and honour Les O'Brien in some way. It was something to do with changing the name and Usain retiring. So I do this thing and I don't stretch or anything and I sprint a full 100-metre sprint hard as I can to look like an idiot in this suit. And after we finished it and edited it, my thighs were burning so I didn't stretch and I think I'm young still. I asked someone at work and show someone at work and they were like, you should probably get permission for that because we tried to film there once before and we got in trouble. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, I think it's someone at work's client. We'll ask them. And then I try to ask them if I could get approval and whatever. And that just kept going, yeah, I haven't got it yet. And I'm like, the story's gone. And then it never got approval and I never put the video out. And during that time of waiting for approval, I blew my quad out because I didn't stretch and stuffed it so much by the next week when some guy walking to the 13th dimension holding 3 boxes kept dropping them. So I thought I'd help him out and he didn't look like the most fittest bloke as, I don't know, you would see going to the 13th dimension. But I was like, oh, I'll help this guy out. And as soon as I bent to pick it up, one quad goes twang and I'm like, and I still help him and limp to this place. And I'm like, yeah, thanks. And he didn't really give me a thanks. And I was like, why would I do that? Played Nick's netball that night, blew out the other quad. And then I walked around a full netball match just walking because I'm like, I've done something here. It got so bad that I kept thinking, oh, I think it's healed again. Just stuffed it again. Grand final day, getting drunk, playing footy with mates. Woke up the next day in so much pain, went to the hospital. They were like, oh, just rest it. And then I'm like, nah, it's bad than that. Went to the doctor. They said, I've torn my quad from full forearm length of quad and I had a hematoma, which was like a blood clot. So that's where that story ended and I had to really rest that and whatever. And that video never came out. There was that one.
So you almost died. You literally almost died for your art. Well, your quad almost died for your art.
Yeah, and it was pretty bad. Especially because I went to the hospital and they were like, "Oh, it's fine," and then I found out it wasn't fine. I could have just sat on it. I had to get some drugs to get rid of that, whatever. But yeah, so there was that video, and the other one, which was making fun of Jason Akermanis for getting banned from the golf courses.
Oh, yeah.
And I filmed a whole thing with Brad Chappell, and we went out on the weekend, and we went to Colcan golf course, I think, because we thought we wouldn't get in trouble out there and whatever. And I dressed up as Acker and I had the goatee and everything. I grew my facial hair out and shaved it that way, darkened it a bit because I can't really grow the best facial hair. But then I had a bleached blonde wig and I went out just being the most arrogant person ever and whatever. And I respect Acker for a footy player, great man. And I actually liked some of his banter and stuff. And I met him and he's been the nicest bloke ever. But he's been living on the border and I thought, oh, this will get a bit of traction because it's very local and he's been banned from Wodonga and Albury and Thaguna or whatever golf courses. And I thought this would be great. And then just as we finished editing and putting it together, me being a real arrogant dick, basically, as much as I still respect the man, but whatever, there was fears that he would see it and he's the kind of person who might sue for defamation or whatever. And I don't know the levels of what I could do there. So he showed the bosses before we put it out and they said, they laughed at it, which was nice. I don't know if the laughs were as heavy as I'd like, but then they said,
They could have juiced it a bit.
yeah, and I was like, oh, maybe it's not that funny as well. But then it's like, you should show legal. And legal's our big department across Australia. And I was like, oh, great. Send it to them. And they were like, didn't get it. Didn't get the joke. But also was like, what's this alleged to? And I was like, oh, that he was being cheating on the border because I would be in the video cheating, being in like whatever. And like throwing the golf ball and pretending and kicking the golf ball like a football and smacking the club on the tree and breaking it and like swearing and whatever and pretending to be the best player ever. And then, they got back to me and said, oh, you have to take out anything that's to do with him being accused of being cheating. And I said, that's the whole video. So didn't put it out.
And it was already out in the media anyway.
And that was all, like he was banned officially, like whatever. You can't get banned without doing something, you would think, but he was saying that he didn't do anything. And anyway, so there's still allegations there. So allegedly he did that stuff, and I wanted to make fun of it, and it was very local, and I thought it was very funny, and I never got to put that video out either. So there's two there.
Yeah, well, I didn't get to make fun of that either, because what year did that happen? Was that early 2019-ish?
Yeah, over 2019.
Yeah, I won't say where I was, but I was in a kind of senior management job at one of the places that banned him.
Right.
So I wanted to make a few jokes about that as well.
And that was the thing part of our work, because we obviously had all those people that banned him, other party clients as well, and they were like, oh, maybe not. And I just was like, okay, fair enough. But it was one of those things where, you know how they say, ask for permission, forgiveness or for permission sort of things. Yeah, I was like, this is one where we just ask for forgiveness. Let's just do it. And then I got scared and realised how hard I went on being a cheat dickhead or whatever. And I went, we should ask for permission first. And then they told me no. And I said, that's why you're supposed to ask for forgiveness. But it could have been a big fine. It could have been way worse for the company and stuff. So I guess we didn't do it. But
I want to see that video. But also I've got one quick question, because I know we're trying to wrap. What is your favourite thing that you have done that has come about because of radio but not actually been on radio or like a content video?
It's probably hosting some different events, and one that I did most recently is right front of mind, and that is being a boxing announcer. I did that last year. And that was just being the ring announcer. So let's get ready to rumble. I got to do that. And
did you actually get to say that phrase? Were you cleared to say that phrase?
Well, it wasn't illegal. I know that's another thing, because Bruce Buffer, or which Buffer is it? Because there's a UFC Buffer and there's the boxing Buffer. Yeah. And they both have coined term like, it's time and let's get ready to rumble. And then I think whatever. But I was mainly channeling my wrestling fan, because I'm a huge wrestling fan. I gave every boxer a nickname if they didn't give me one already, and I was like 16 fights, and I gave everyone a nickname that I just made up myself, except maybe one bloke, because he was like, don't give me a nickname. And I went, you look like a person I really shouldn't give a nickname.
I think they all probably were.
And well, that's fair. No, you know what, some of them are really nice guys, but yeah, I gave everyone a nickname, and that was my most enjoyable part, going out there and watching their faces hear their own nickname for the first time, and they're like looking at me like, why did you give me that nickname? And I'm like, because it's funny. Like, there was some guy who had the last name maybe Waters, and it was like, Lachlan, lock up your daughter's Waters. And I just found it very, very amusing. Yeah. And no one told me that was not to happen, and no one said after, don't do that again. So yeah, I was supposed to go back and do that before COVID happened, and they were going to get me back to do it, and I would have loved to do that, because that's just something, you dress nice in the big tux sort of look or the suit look, and you get to just talk and make up jokes. And then we'll do an ad reads in the middle of rounds, and you're just sort of saying like, oh, and I'd just be like, go down to this bakery and they've got drive-through so you can sit on your butt and get food. That's the way you want to live. Like, just no one gave me any actual direction.
Just
I love
in
that.
your element. It was your
and I got a couple of beers too, so that was like to start.
100% in the element.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Yeah. Everything's better with a couple of beers.
That's a good place to leave that one. Yeah.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah, Tyson.
Beers, not a sponsor.
Tyson, couple of beers with.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Righto, mate. Well, thanks so much. It's really great to reconnect. And
yeah.
Thanks for coming into our little studio and making the time on a weekend.
Thanks for having me, really. I mean, time flew by. How long is that?
That's about an hour.
Wow. I sometimes just go, don't I? I just talk.
It definitely hasn't felt like an hour, which is
good.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
When we crack the hour mark and it feels like 2 hours, that's when you know it's going a bit long.
Yeah, we should wrap this up.
Yeah. Oh, that's all right.
Okay. No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That's good.
Let's continue to punch sideways.
Punch.
What's the game?
This is what I want.
What's the gimmick?
You can teach me a few things from your boxing.
Do you mind if I ask someone who's pretty sharp When you hear the phrase punching sideways, what do you think that might mean?
I think it means, because I think of punching above your weight is like, you know, you shouldn't be there. Like, you shouldn't where you are, but you are going above where you should be. So sideways, I assume you're just staying around in mediocrity.
Yeah, so it's funny because my older brother thought exactly the same thing.
Okay, right.
Because he's a hardcore boxing fan.
Yeah.
What it's meant to mean is that you punch up at politicians, but you don't punch down at poor people. So really it's meant to be you punch sideways so everyone gets – it's an equal opportunity bashing show.
Great.
I
wish it wasn't so violent.
No, it still makes no sense to anybody.
See,
what about kissing sideways?
See,
a bit nicer and loving.
That sounds like you and your COVID test.
Don't talk about that.
I feel like, to be fair, I didn't think that was what it meant either, because I've just rolled in and just, like you, just roll in and jump on someone else's
Somehow
platform.
it's got your name on the show, got your face on the artwork.
Yeah, and a big fist going.
I feel like it's just coming in left field.
I think it's
like you're a left field punching sideways. It's an unexpected.
I think it's like the name Google. It just means whatever it means to people.
Yeah,
That's what I'm claiming now.
There you go.
Okay.
Right.
Great.
Well, thank you very much for joining us on the show,
Thanks
mate.
for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Mel.
Thanks. And we're on. Got a clapper machine in here now, guys, just to make sure that we all know that mics are on. Time to talk. What do you think of that?
Well, to begin with, I feel like we should have someone in here clapping for us all the time.
As opposed to getting the clap, just someone clapping.
You're destined to convince people any room that I inhabit there's something bad going on.
It's just, the badness is in my brain. It's nothing to do with the space I'm in. It could be anywhere.
Clappy room is an improvement from rapey room.
So. I will say this. I think Wodonga has the highest rate of the clap in Australia.
Wow.
So that's a fun fact for everyone to know.
Our guest today, Tyson's talking about maybe being the mayor of Wodonga.
He wants to be the mayor of Wodonga, and maybe that could be one of the things that he...
Well, he said he was looking for a platform.
That's his platform. That's his platform. There you go. There you go. What did you think of Tyson? You've known him pre-me.
I knew a version of him. And to be honest, I knew him probably way less as a person as sometimes you think you do if you're both involved in something and there's a culture and a community, sometimes you feel like you might know an individual better than you actually do. But he's incredibly nice in the best possible way. Super friendly. He hung out with us like we're doing this way later than we normally would be. So
yeah, he actually took up a lot of our time, to be fair. I was tired at the end of it, but it was a good chat. I wish we were recording the 3 hours post.
There was a lot in that, and maybe one day we can get him back on. It's funny, after about 50 minutes, I think he finally 100% realised, that we really wanted him here, and also that he could fully relax. And then, the after chat was great. Now, I don't want people listening are like, well, we don't get to hear that, but...
No. Unlucky, guys.
we had fun.
You get to hear some good bits. The reason I wanted to get him on, and you've also always wanted to get him on, but I have had this uneasy feeling about him ever since I've met him.
Yeah.
Like I sometimes have felt like we get along, and sometimes I felt like he just hates me. And I used to just joke to him, and he's like, you just keep saying that I hate you. And I don't, like, we'd have fights, OBs and that, because I was doing promotions when he was doing, like, outside broadcasts and announcing. And we'd either feel like we were getting along, or I'd be sort of doing my usual joke, self-deprecating joke, and he would, like, react like, what are you on? Like, don't you, like, you? And I think from listening in, like, I was actually very listening this interview.
That was the most listening that I think I've seen.
It's because I actually related to so much that he said. Like, I feel like we're a spirit animal.
That's a funny way to put it, but there's nothing closer to what I would call the truth in that, what you've just said, because I looked over several times, and I think I said this to you after the interview, there was so much mirroring going on between things you've told me about creative frustrations you've had in your own life and, journey, and whether it's radio or outside of just making stuff. And he said so many things where I, for a moment, got completely distracted by your reaction.
Yeah.
Because it's rare that you see two people that are so simpatico about something, and it was all non-verbal, but
yeah. And I think I was just, because I said to you, the most nervous I've ever been about interviewing anyone is with Tyson.
Yeah.
Because
I had the feeling if I just kept pushing him off, that's one person you might have been okay about that with.
No, it's definitely and I don't know, and I think it is because I just never knew, and maybe this is a self-reckoner for me, that people don't necessarily know how to take me as well, because I just never quite knew where I sat in that space. And it was probably more so post-chat that I realised, actually I do really get along with him. It's just that we were in a different sort of workspace where, you have to put your game face on a little bit, and in commercial radio, it's not necessarily all muck about, like you're there to do a job. So and you've got people watching over you, because there were moments, I think, where I'd talk to him and go, yep, I'm very relatable to what you're talking about right now. And he was always very generous if I bothered to ask him for help.
Yeah.
But I also very rarely did that, because same as Tyson, I don't like hassling people, because I'm happy to help them, but I don't like taking up other people's time.
Yeah.
And it was a good kick in the ass for me, actually, to sit there and listen to Tyson again.
When he said the phrase, it was something like, don't these people realise I'm here? I'm over here, hello, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I saw you kind of shift in your seat, like, I know exactly what you're saying right now. And do you think maybe that's why two people that aren't 100% into playing the game, maybe the way the industry may force you to do it a little bit, and you're so focused on trying to get things right, and do you think the fact that you both had to put a little bit of a mask on might have meant that you were kind of never, I
actually had a moment like that. I've had a few moments like Tyson was talking about, but one was actually when I was working in the Albury station, doing everything I could to make sure all my tiny little minute crosses were just bang on. And I think it was a little, like, I'd been there for quite a while and was getting, good feedback and everything. And then I went, for some reason something happened, and then the content director turned around and goes, do you want to be on air? And I was like, yes. What do you think? Like,
did they dip their head like you, like to the side?
I was like, why do you think I'm here doing all this dumb stuff? Like, and I just remember being just like, how could they not know?
Yeah.
Like, everyone knows that that's what I'm here for. I'm not just here to fuck spiders. I don't even like spiders. I was just like, I can't believe that I have been trying so hard to make like these tiny little minutes perfect, and no one thought that I'm doing it for a reason.
Yeah, you had an end goal.
Yeah, nah. So that was a bit of a reckoner. And then after sort of talking to Tyson again, I sort of sat to you and I just need to actually put shit out there, to be honest, because I've been working for so long on doing all these projects, but no one actually gets to hear what I'm up to.
Exactly. And I know that I sometimes try to point out what I think your little golden moments are, and what I would probably should be doing is I'm not really helping. All I'm doing is just saying, hey, that bit was good. But I could be, just as I'm going along, if I think a bit's really good and it's mostly based on you, and what we're getting at for the people listening is Mel being able to send this away to other people.
Yeah.
For them to say, oh, well, that works in the radio world or that works in the video world or whatever. I could just cut it out and send it to you.
Well, you're helpful because I'm still on mic. So that's helpful. You need to just keep doing stuff so you either get better or you just stay mediocre. I don't know what it is. But I had when I was working at Shepparton, like so there's a lot of strategy that goes, my brain works a lot. That it doesn't seem like that because I'm quite flippant with the way I talk.
You're very focused. People don't realise you always have a focus.
There's strategy.
Yeah, a strategy.
There's strategy. So the strategy behind going to Shepparton was to learn as much as I could and to develop as many relationships and know how every part of the business worked, so that if it came to communicating with someone in sales, I knew exactly what their expectation is and what had gone into their role. Same with digital, same with any sort of part. I was like a little marriage celebrant in there, and I knew everything that was going on, down to knowing how to fix the air conditioner because the electricians had taught me that. And I built, and also just don't be a dick.
You learned that in Shepparton of all places.
I didn't learn that in Shepparton. It's just a thing that I roll. Don't be a dick and just talk to everyone and learn as much as you can and see if you can help. But I've developed all these relationships and I have some really cool mates out of it, like even like the content director in Shepparton. But I'm still not accessing these connections that I've made.
And these people are open to it though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're not resistant to you like, well, you're out of the picture now, stop, don't send me stuff. They're actually actively like, they're telling you to stay in their world.
Actively, like, I've got good friends out of it. Yeah. But also they're like, you need to be sending me stuff. And what happened was I finally got to a point the other night. I had my a content director on the phone and I was like, I just don't like hassling people, you know. And I never think like that's quite good enough. And he goes, this is my job. If you don't put stuff in my inbox all the time and a job comes up, then it's harder for me in my role to give you a job. And I was like, okay, cool.
Because you're not front of mind as to how you're...
Well, not front of mind. And he can't sort of say, oh, this is what she's been working on.
And she's better
like
than
this.
she was 6 months ago or whatever.
Yeah. So I can reconcile it now if I'm helping someone else with their job.
Yeah. It's funny that you said in there maybe something's not good enough. Tyson said something, and it's probably the most interesting thing to me that he said. It was that sometimes you put something out into the world that you don't put any quote-unquote work into, and that gets a really good reaction. And I think in the audio you agreed with him, and it's a commonplace. You think, oh, well, that's just some flippant thing and it gets all this interaction. But my theory is slightly different, and I didn't say it at the time. If you didn't go through all the videos that you've made that don't have a great reaction and done all of that work, you're not actually, it's not like you put out a video with no planning on day one. You put out a video with no planning on day 500.
Yeah.
So the baseline of how bad the quality on that video could be is way above where it would have been when you started.
True. It's not even just videos though.
Yeah.
Like it's even if you throw out a meme or a little
joke
bit of content or anything like that. And sometimes I think one of the most successful things I put up took me like 2 minutes and was like, how do you cook your toast?
And that hits
and everyone's like, oh, I have my toast like that. And it's just like, oh, mate. And then I can sit there for an hour and photo collage something into like cool, and it might get like, I'll be proud of it. And everyone's like, yeah, it's all right.
It's funny you say that, and we don't want to go too self-indulgent, but this week I've put out some advertising for the show that I did, and that was great. And a lot of people, I mean, not to see me, but that had a good vibe, and they sold more tickets than last month. And I put out the podcast and a few other things this week and a few photos. The thing that I put up where I talked about how I fell on the ground and knocked myself out as a kid and then I lost my sight for a couple of hours, that's had the most engagement of anything I've released in weeks. And it was just people getting to share their own little story. And there's a girl that I know, and she actually posted a comment on there, I'm going to keep coming back to this because this is funny. And then she posted again the next day saying, okay, I'm happy I did because this is super funny. Yeah.
People like to be invested in something, right? Yeah. And to have a platform.
But just being able to ask the question the right way, like if I had have done it a few years ago, told the story, and I probably would have been too long-winded and not actually given people, I would have just told the story and not opened the door at all for them to share their little story.
Yeah. So you've evolved.
I have.
Look out.
Yeah. But
here he comes, guys.
That just goes back to my baseline the way that I approached that, even though I didn't think about it for 1 second, there's a lot more knowledge working behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why Tyson put stuff out in the world that got a great reaction, even though he didn't think he worked on it. He'd already done years of work.
True.
Yeah.
But I will say, and I think I've said this, he's very generous, but he's supremely underrated because there's much more, and this is probably, and I'm not saying that I'm underrated or rated at all, but I think the thing that, I can relate to is there's so much more going on underneath like this cavalier sort of boisterous thing that is projected into the world that, there's a respect from me there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, we won't keep people too much longer, so they can go to punchingsideways.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can share the show, write us a comment on there if you want to, or you can probably more easily write us a comment or a message on Facebook.
Do that.
That's at Punching Sideways on Facebook and Instagram, and you can support us if you think it's worth a couple of freckles. punchingsideways.com. Just click on the Buy Me a Coffee button and you can shout us a coffee or a couple of coffees.
I'd just also like to shout out to everyone that's been sort of reaching out and saying that they're enjoying listening.
Yep.
Thank you so much. That is a nice little uplifting thing. Sometimes when you're having a bad day and wondering whether you're going in the right direction, it's just nice to get some unsolicited comments.
Correct. And we also had a couple of people last week at the comedy show that I had no idea were listening that really enjoyed some of the more recent stuff. So that was nice. Face-to-face thumbs up, basically.
Yeah, that's cool.
Righto. Bye-bye.
Laters.
This episode was edited by Dead Set Podcasting. If you want your podcast to sound this good, check out deadsetpodcasting.com/services. Get the sound you're chasing.